Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. We're going to be talking with the brand new fire chief, David Schmitt. He's up from Burbank, California. We're going to learn about his life and what he's bringing to the city of Bremerton. I look forward to seeing you. Stay with us. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. My special guest today is the fire chief that's just been hired. He's from Burbank, California. It's David Schmitt, and we're going to learn about his life growing up and what plans he has for our fire department here in Bremerton. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Lent. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Let's take you back to growing up Southern California. And siblings, are you from a large family?
Pretty decent sized family, 4 brothers and sisters, and grew up in a little town called La Cañada down in California, Southern California area, and spent pretty much our entire life right there.
Right there. You started as a teen and going through, when you started college, you didn't have firefighting or the fire department in your focal point. You kind of started in construction. Tell us a little bit about what you wanted to be when you thought you started college.
Like most teens, you get to college and really not sure direction. And I was not any different than anybody else out there looking to find a path. And started off in an engineering major and just didn't seem right for me at the time. And ended up meeting the love of my life, getting married, walking away from college for a temporary, long temporary leave of absence, and starting a family. And then ended up in the construction field. And I ended up working with some smaller companies, working my way up into larger companies, working my way all the way up to superintendent for a company, and really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed the hands-on, the putting together, working together as a team to come up with a final project, and a final building that you could walk away from and look at and be able to drive by and say, I had a part of that.
Right. And then what changed your mind or got you interested in firefighting?
It's actually my wife. She said, are you going to do this construction thing your whole entire life? And I said, well, no, but I'm busy doing it. And she said, I've got some friends who are firefighters. And she said, they're just like you. They're athletic, they're outdoorsy, they enjoy that part of it. You might want to look at it. So I took a look, and I was fortunate enough to get a job in the city of Burbank. And 31 years later, I kind of went through the entire ranks and enjoyed every single bit of it, and it was just a perfect fit.
And besides that, I know that through some training, many of our firefighters have attended some national training across the United States. You were very involved in that. How did that lead into your firefighting?
I was approached by a member of the International Association of Firefighters, one of the captains that was working with them, putting together some national training programs. And they were looking to put together a program that would be specifically designed towards saving firefighter lives. And I just recently put together a program in our area with our 11 cities that was a RIC program that was designed, same thing, to help protect firefighters and get firefighters out of a building when necessary. But they were looking to take this a little bit larger. And so I jumped at the opportunity. I was overwhelmed that I was asked, because we had members from all over the country and experts in every field of firefighter survival. And I was very fortunate to be one of 8 members brought back to DC to kind of put this together and develop the program. Captain Derek Alconis, who's now Assistant Chief Derek Alconis with LA County, kind of ran the program for us, and he was our lead and liaison for it. But it's been an extremely successful program. The IFF is 100% behind trying to protect our firefighters and do everything we can to make sure we send them all home the following day after their shift.
Right.
And so I've been able to travel all over the country after we put this program together, and now I've been training firefighters from end to end. And it's been extremely successful. We've saved quite a few lives because of our material that we put out there, and it's just going to continue to grow.
Will you still be involved now that you've landed and you're our fire chief?
The commitment here is tremendous, yes. So I really don't want to split my time. I have spoken with them and said that I'd like to stay on as a mentor or as someone to help develop or look at the material as it comes up and kind of be someone as an advocate to keep the program moving forward. But I just really, unfortunately, can't split my time and be out there training members on the drill grounds like I'd like to.
Well, you've got a lot to train here.
I got a lot of work here.
And tell us a little bit about the difference in size. Burbank, the population of Burbank is?
About 110,000, 120, between 110 and 120.
Mm-hmm. And so how many firefighters did you have?
We had about 125 on duty, or on the whole department.
So not quite double what we've got. I know downsizing, you've got all the expertise of what you were doing, and I know you see some great things coming for what you can do for our department. We have just 3 fire stations. How many did you have in Burbank?
6 stations,
6.
and only 17 square miles.
Oofda. And you know, we've got 30 square.
Yes, so we're almost double the size, half
Yes.
the stations, half the shift, so quite the challenge. Yeah.
Did you also have an organization like we have with our the commissioners? We used to have 20 fire department in this small little county of Kitsap. And over the years, probably about 25 years, it's been reduced down to about 7. That doesn't include North Mason or Gig Harbor. But so we've condensed them. We've got fire districts and fire authorities, and we are one of the few city fire departments. Do you see that as a positive? Or how do you look at the leadership that you're going to bring in a city fire department?
A lot of it depends on the council, the mayor, how much control you want to have over your fire department. Obviously, as you branch out and you have multiple agencies involved, you kind of lose some of that control over exactly, how you want your department to be. Right. The exciting thing for me is to be head of a department like this, to be able to have an immediate impact with changes. It's like a speedboat. You can turn around really, really quickly, as opposed to an aircraft carrier, which takes a long time to change.
Correct.
We saw that being in Burbank. We were a smaller department with a giant department right next to us, LA City. So Los Angeles City Fire Department, one of the largest on the West Coast. Again, making changes there, it took a lot more time to implement changes, whereas we could do it on the fly and make changes way quickly. And I see the same thing here. I'm a advocate for change when change is necessary, but there has to be a reason for it. So looking at what we have in place here, I've already seen quite a few opportunities to make positive changes, and the members have been very receptive.
I'm sure they have. In the past, now I've been just the mayor for 8 years, so 2 terms. But over the years, I know our former fire chief was here 20 years as the chief, but 35 years because of being in the fire department. The former one was also internally. There have been 32 mayors in our city and only 13 fire chiefs. So they last a lot longer over the 116 years that we've been a city. In fact, I have a relative. My husband's grandfather was, in the 1926, was a fire chief.
Wow.
So it's kind of exciting to see that. With that, he came from Orange County. So again, we haven't had somebody that we went on a national search. So you can see that we were really looking for someone that was going to bring, as you say, the change agent, someone that you have so many skills and attributes behind you in your resume and in our interviews, and I know that our firefighters recognize that as well. The neatest thing is that with Kitsap 911, the City of Bremerton, with our size and the small size of the fire department, but the large size of the city, we have the best on-call. We have the best, that first responder team. You really have a great group of men and women that can take and, as you say, be there when you need to have fast response.
Exactly.
As we move forward, I've always wanted to say, the city is a jewel and it's got growth. We want to do a lot of annexation. A city needs more people, but with that comes, again, some problems because we don't have enough firefighters. As you do your evaluation and we have that growth that's anticipated, I think we're going to be able to take and meet your needs and the things that you feel need to be added to the fire department with exuberance. So I'm willing to work with you on that respect. You've already met with all the other fire chiefs. In fact, they were at your swearing in at City Council just the first meeting of June. Were you excited, or is that something that the camaraderie was the same in Burbank?
There's a little bit of the same down there, but this is a little bit different because up here you rely so much on your neighbor because of the staffing levels. And I think it's unique in that aspect that where I come from in our area down in Southern California, we had a mutual aid and automatic aid agreements where we would go into each other's neighborhood to support each other. But it wasn't quite as spread out as we have here. And so you really expect, or have that expectation that you have each other's backs. When there's an incident that requires additional staffing, additional resources, they're going to be coming in, but it's a needed. It's down there. Sometimes it's nice to have, but not always necessary. Up here, it's necessary. Yeah. So
have you met the fire chief of the naval base?
Friday, we're doing a tour. We're meeting. I spoke with him yesterday, and we're getting together. Chief Scoggins from Seattle and myself are going to get together with him and do the tour.
That's great. We have that's such a big footprint in the city.
Oh, tremendous.
And they've been there 10 years longer than the city's even been incorporated. So we do work side by side with them as well. You've got some new equipment that we just voted a bond. We've got a very strong citizenry that believes in first responders. And so they've always passed our levy. They've always passed the bonds to buy that equipment. Describe some of the new things that are going to be here for our firefighters.
Well, we just received our newest ambulance, and that's over at Station 2. And it's really important piece of equipment, and it's a very emotional piece of equipment for our members because earlier in this year we lost one of our firefighters, Jimmy Hendricks, and he's a firefighter paramedic. He rode on that piece of equipment, and so when we got the new one, the members got together and ended up with his name on the side of that rig. And the neat thing was his daughter Izzy actually did this signature on the side of the rig. And so forever, when anybody steps inside that rig, every medic gets in there, they'll remember Jimmy. That's
right. You also down in Burbank, one of the reasons we had a delayed hire, or you coming back into Bremerton, was that you also had a loss of a firefighter. So you have chaplains on duty at each one of the fire districts or departments throughout the nation. Isn't that correct?
Most departments do have their own chaplains, yes.
And that is because you witness a lot of things that the rest of us don't know. We had an explosion over at a hotel, and it was a gas explosion, and one of our firefighters were injured. And we had a couple of huge fires. One was a apartment building, and one was a furniture store. Those were the three major fires in the city of Bremerton in the last, I'd say, 15 years. Having said that, we really have kept our codes to the fact, so when new construction goes in or someone's remodeling, we want them to adjust to the fire codes. And I know you're going to work closely with our fire marshal.
Nice.
He not only checks out what the buildings are going to look like when they're being built, but he also, in the investigation when you do have a fire. We haven't had any fires since you've been here, though.
Small ones.
Small.
Yeah. And I hope they stay that way.
For a city our size, how do you see, if it was a perfect world, how would you gradually increase your firefighters so that you had certain numbers on each shift or on each rig?
Your staffing, you look at call volume, you look at population densities, you look at your evaluation of the city and where your real needs are. And you start off with that and you cordon it off, and now you space out your fire stations to be able to manage that risk. And so based on the numbers and our growth potential as we look to expand out further, we look to see what the time frame it would take to get emergency services to any address within the city. We want to be to any place within the city within 4 minutes and have an EMT and or a paramedic there able to start life-saving procedures. And so that's our push. That's our push to look to see, do we have the proper coverage? Do we have the proper spacing of our department, our stations, to be able to do that coverage and to be able to respond that quickly? So that would be our first look, is to make sure we're spaced out properly. We may require another station further out. And then the other is the actual staffing of the apparatus. Based on national standards, we typically try and have a minimum of 3-person staffing on every engine company.
Right.
And then we have the 2 on the paramedic squad on the ambulance. And so the medics work independent off it. Right now we're working the 2 in conjunction to staff properly if we do get an incident such as a fire, where we require that hands-on staffing. But for the most part, I would look to first see if our footprint is proper, see if our response times are proper, and then work on the staffing to backfill and build that up.
That's great. You know, we incorporated in 2008 the airport area, so that's now within the city limits, and we have a mutual agreement with South Kitsap Fire and Rescue, because they have a closer time to get to the airport. And there's also a fire truck that's out at the airport. They have the fire engine. When we had the AOPA fly-in, we had the largest that they've ever had in the United States. Thousands of people that came, and over 700 planes that were here. It was pretty exciting. But they, of course, when you're having planes come and go from an airport, you have the need for that fire truck. Burbank has an airport, so that's not unusual.
Not at all.
We have a lot of young members that have just been sworn in. Were you excited to see that, or how was that comparing with what you're coming from in Burbank? Did you have young firefighters? Because I think they're the ones with the stamina and that can pull those hoses and do the things that a firefighter needs to do.
Right, that's the thing, you know, over the years, fire science has changed, technology's changed, the fires that we fight have changed. We don't have the time, we don't have the luxury of time anymore. And so speed is of the essence. And so you do have to have the ability to quickly get there. The one thing that's never changed over the years is the equipment's heavy. Water still weighs 8.34 pounds per square foot. It's heavy to get a hose in place. It's heavy to pull the axes, the force entry equipment, just the packs and everything you wear is in excess of 70 pounds just to start out with your bottle on and all the equipment you take up there. So it's extremely physical job, and that part will never ever change. No. It just becomes, we have to be even quicker and more efficient in order to keep up with the changing dynamics of what's happening inside fires these days. And so it's exciting to have a young core group of people coming up, and these new firefighters, every time you bring in a new group, they bring new energy. They bring that excitement, and it reinvigorates members who've been on for a long time who maybe have done multiple runs multiple times, and sometimes it's the same run again. But when you bring in someone fresh, they start working with them and they bring them back, start bringing them up and building them up, and it reinvigorates everyone in the department.
That's pretty exciting.
We have a lot of retirements coming up, a lot of senior members that we're losing, and all that experience goes out the door.
Right.
And so the good part is you bring in somebody fresh, excited to fill that position, but at the same time, it's very difficult to replace that experience.
How do you recruit? What are you looking for when someone says, I'd like to be a firefighter? That's kind of a little guy's dream.
Right, as the little guys come up to the engine and go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
You're looking for someone who wants to help. It starts off with that personality. That's probably the most important aspect. You have people physically able to do the job. You have people intelligent who can handle the material that we have to understand and learn. But you have to have that mentality that I want to give back. I care about people. I want to, I'm going to put my life on the line for someone else. And that's the part we look for. We look for that personality, and then we hope that we get everything else that goes with it. But you can't teach that part. No.
With the retirements that are coming, how do you see us recruiting additional firefighters and EMTs? Because I think all of ours are the same. They're all EMTs as well as firefighters.
Yes, all of our firefighters are EMTs, but we also have paramedics. And so that's the difficult part, is trying to draw in paramedics as well. Because there's two avenues. You can hire someone who's already a trained paramedic, and then we can train them up on our methodology here. Or you can hire a firefighter, EMT, and then send them to paramedic school, which takes them away from us for almost a full year.
Right.
So it's a costly and time, huge time commitment for us to do that way. So if we do have a solid paramedic coming up, we'll definitely jump on them when that need rises, and grab them and bring them into the fold. I
hope that when you have your chance to meet with the Navy, that young men that might have worked in fire or in a condition that they're already qualified. That's one of the things that we haven't looked at, separation from the Navy, how we could take and incorporate them into our community. So there's opportunities there that we haven't really looked out to.
I'll bring my son in here.
Oh, by all means.
Yes.
Speaking of your son, I wanted to bring up to audience that you have a large family.
Yes.
And they're going to be moving up this summer, and 4 of your own biological, but you've taken in foster children as babies and adopted them, and you have a total of 10.
10 children, yes.
10 children. In Kitsap County, we have a large population of foster kids. And you are really I think will be a mentor. You'll be a face of someone that has made family life work for all the children within your realm. I think that's an exciting part. That's one of the things that I was very impressed with, is not only wanting to give back, but that service that you took internally and not just professionally, but on that personal note. That speaks loads for the community that we live in. We have a community that just wraps our arms around all the people that live here, and you are just a top-notch person that's going to be part of that.
I appreciate that. It's one of those things that we started many, many years ago. Started doing foster care, and it was difficult. It's difficult to take a child into your home and then let them go back to another situation.
Right.
And someone explained to me, as we first started the whole program way back when, that you treat them like they're your brother's children.
Nieces and nephews.
Yes. You protect them, you love them, but you have the understanding they maybe go back. And that's what happened many, many times. We had over 60 children over the years that we fostered and we're parents for. And we were very blessed. As some of the children came into our home, we were able to adopt. And I don't even think of them other than as my children, because the only time I think about it is when we talk about it. But it's such a blessing to, you get back way more than you put into it.
Oh, I agree. What's the age range of your family?
34 to 35 to twin 11-year-olds.
Twins, oh my gosh, I have twin grandchildren. That's a handful for your last ones.
Yes.
And because you're a carpenter, the house that you're looking for a permanent residence, you said it could be a house that I could take and add bedrooms, because you need a lot of rooms. They all come back home, don't they?
Eventually they all don't, right? But we would hope to be able to have enough room to be able to have the family come up, the grandkids come up. Got 5 grandkids now, and kids are kind of spreading out a little bit, but during the summertime or whenever they're off school, it'd be great to be able to have them all up here, and my wife would love it.
Have you done any fishing or hunting in your life?
I'm not a hunter. I've done fishing way back when with my father, and some with my stepfather, and my one son that's coming up he loves to fish. If he could fish every single day, he would do it.
You'll have all the opportunity.
Yes.
And we've got lots of people that will give you hints, from salmon to trout. So.
Oh, I've heard stories already that this is the Mecca if you want to get out there and do that. We
have one employee that works in public works, and he will take a day off without pay to go shrimping. He loves shrimping, and it's Ned Lever, and I'll tell you, he's amazing. So if you ever want to try that, you've got someone that's going to be able to take and do some of that things for you.
Well, I knew I was in a little different area when I went into Costco up here, and there were shrimp baskets available for shrimping in the middle of the store. And I'd never seen one before in my life, so that's a little bit different from what we have down south. Yes.
That's great. I'm sure you'll love every minute that you're here. And as times change, your ideas and what people are looking forward to for this change that's coming is going to be amazing for us. I'm welcoming you. I love the things that you've already said and are doing just in the few weeks you've been here. The city's behind you 100%, and I know that each one of our residents, if they see you, you're going to be in uniform or
Yes.
in a vehicle, they're going to know who you are before you know who they are. So it's welcome to the City of Bremerton. Your career has at least a minimum of 10 years, and whatever we can do together, it's a team.
I'm extremely excited. Hit the ground running, and from top to bottom, everyone I've met throughout the city has just been fantastic.
That's great.
Our government is in great hands. I'm thrilled to be part of this.
Thank you, and I'm glad you're our guest today. Join us next time with Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent.